Right, got Fender Blues Junior here, and we've done quite a few of these on the channel. I wasn't going to video this one, but the reason I've decided to is with actually what's wrong with it. So the problem with this one is the tube sockets are dry jointed in the board. You remember they've got I'll take the back off and show you. So we're looking in there. Let's just get some light. So if we look at these tubes, can you see the pins moving there on that one? And just about all of them. So the tracers have completely snapped off there. So it's obviously meant that we need to get a new board for that. So had a look around on the net, and I came up with this one. Let's just have a look. Just drop down. And here, and this is from JPF amps.com in London. They're actually based in London, and this is a really nice board. You can go on and read about these boards. I'll put a link on in the description. So that's what we're going to use, and it's a much improved board than the stock Fender one. So he's going in there. That's the first thing. Now this might not have the bias problems because this has been to a tech previous, and I think the bias has been adjusted on this amp. I think the resistors have been changed. The R51, R52 has been changed on there, you can see. So I think this amp's already been biased. Those tubes don't look like they've had any heat, so I think we're probably going to be alright with that. But we have got to take the board out to deal with this jack socket, which doesn't look very healthy at all. So we've got that to deal with. So the board's going to have to come out. So we may well opt to change these three capacitors here while I've got the board out. This first one is a common failure in these amps, and maybe even do some mods while the board's out, because they're very quick and easy to do once the board's actually out. JPFamps.com. So pop on their website and have a look. Some good stuff on there. Although I actually bought this off eBay, and then I actually tracked them down through Google. I think the voltage has been changed on this one as well, which I also need to check, but I think it has, because of course they come into this country, as you know, 230 volts setting, and there should be 240. The old EU again, but we won't mention those because we don't do politics on this channel, or any media rubbish or anything like that, or anything to do with anybody in the news with a bald head saying things that he shouldn't say because he's suffering from an acute attack of dirty old man syndrome. No more digressing. Right, we've got the old board out, and we can see he's a bit baked. Right, I've got this board out of this Blues Junior. I'm just having a look at a few things on here. I've got the macro lens on, and so we're looking. So you can see here some work's been done there. I'm just having a look what that is, and that looks like a resistor's being swapped there. Well, that's that resistor's very baked. Maybe that's what's caused that. That resistor is baked, so that's something we need to look at there. What's happened on that point? You can see looks like a cold solder, but I think that may be just due to that getting hot. Some scratches on the board there. Something's been That's when that capacitor was put in. Nothing major. And then just move across to here. Got a big scratch going down here. Don't know what's gone on there. And that there is dry jointed. Oh, it's cracked around there. So that is the resistor that's been replaced for the bias. So rather lucky there that that hasn't fried the tubes, come disconnected. I'm going to remove these capacitors here. You can see, probably look a bit large on this macro. These three 22s at 450, they're going. So we're going to remove those, and we're going to do some mods on this amp while we've got it in bits. It just seems a logical thing to do. Jack sockets there being wired up at some time, being resoldered. Bit of flux on there, nothing. We can clean that up, but we're going to look at that as well. And then you can see, if we look, we go into here, see we've got a bit of corrosion on that, on the board there, so we've got that to clean off as well. Not sure what that is on. Let's have a look. That looks like that's on the reverb connections, is it? Right, we're just looking at this resistor here, this R47, that looks a bit burnt. And if we look on here, get something to point with. R47 there is, we've actually got the, I've still got the macro lens on. R47 2.2K, you can see there on that one. But if we look in, we go in, just move those wires back and go in, you can see that, maybe you can see, just get down a bit more there, whoops. So if we look in, I might not be able to see in because of the light, but you see there the colours have gone white on that one. So that's had a bit of baking, hasn't it? Let's test it and see what it says. 1.958 it is. So it's a little bit under, but that's okay. And yes, that's had a bit of heat at some time. So the one next to it is R48. Let's see what that one is. That's a mild baking. That's 10K. And yeah, that looks probably about right on those colours, because the colours have faded off them a bit. So let's check that one, shall we? As well. You can hear that noise, it's pink rummaging. Yep, that's fine. 9.9, near enough, that one. One of the mods that some people do on these actually is drop the resistance of them to get more voltage onto the plates of the output tubes to get more headroom. So we're going to clean all this stuff off of here. Right, so we've cleaned that off now, ready for the capacitors to go in. Right, I've done quite a bit of work to this Blues Junior now, so we'll just have a bit of a look what we've done. So we've changed the three capacitors here, the 22s, so we've got those F and T's in. I've changed that 2.2 because it was a bit on the baked side, so we swapped that. The two 10Ks are now 4.7, so we can let a bit more voltage through onto the plates of the preamp tubes. 470 at 63, they were 470 at 50, we've changed those. 220 microfarads, a pair of those we've changed. There's 100 microfarad lurking somewhere in there that's been changed. And then we've done some mods on the amp as well. I've changed the coupling caps, got a couple of Vichys in there, 33 nanofarad, just up those a bit, just get a bit of a richer tone from it. We've changed C2, which was 2 nanofarad, to 22 nanofarad. We've changed C8, which was also 2 nanofarad to 22 nanofarad, and we've changed the tone stack cap from 22, the bass cap, to 100, which is stock Fender on the, I think, the Super Reverb I looked on there. We've changed the first stage bypass capacitor from 47 to 22, again, like, you know, on most Fenders, that just a bit faulty on the bottom end with that on there, I think. We've replaced one or two capacitors with the same values, 22s and so on. Replaced 100 as well somewhere on here, I can't remember where I've done that many. So that's about where we are with that, and we'll have a bit of a detailed look on this schematic that I've got here a bit later on. So the only thing left to do now is this jack socket here, and we've got a switchcraft to go in here, so we're going to wire this up with some screen cable. So that's where we are with this amp. So pushing on with it now. I've done a lot of work to it, and it needed it. And if we look on the back of the board there, you can see the that's slightly burnt there, where that resistor's got really hot because the tubes are drawing excessive current at some point. So, but other than that, you can't see where I've been, and that's the idea of it. If I solder these boards up, I don't like to be able to see where I've been soldering. It all just matches in with factory. There is one part that's there. We've just, you probably can't see that in, but that one's not. That trace there is where that resistor was swapped to reduce the bias. So that trace has got slightly damaged there. Nothing major. There's a slight bit of damage there, but again, nothing major. So yeah, it's all looking good. All looking good. Right, got the board back in, so we've got everything sorted out now. We've changed all the capacitors, and ooh, up him straight. Must have got knocked when I was putting the board in. So all the capacitors are done, and the jack socket's now in the switchcraft. We've got that wired into the board under there. You can probably just see it. So that's all wired in with some screen cable. So before we start putting this bottom board in, I wanted to take a look at this voltage selection here. And I don't know what I've done with my papers now. So actually looking on here, you can see 230 wire and 240. These come into the country with 230. Has this one been swapped? So if we look down here, we've got violet, P4, same on there on the 240, P7 black red, P7 black red on the 240, 230 there, black green, black yellow, P9 and P10, they're the same. White, P5, white, same on both of them. And then here white, black on the switch, but here black on the switch. And so white, black on the switch, black on the switch, white, black on P6, black on P6. So if this is 230 volts wired, as it is from the factory, we should see black on P6 and we should see black, white on the switch. So if we go into here, and you can see there we've got black, white on the switch. If we hone into P6, which is there, P6, which is there, you can, and we've got the black wire there protruding there. So we need to swap those around, don't we? So this is not on 240, it's still on 230. We need to get black white off of there, black white off the switch. You can see, just pop that back in there, switch, and that needs to go onto P6, and black then needs to come onto the switch off P6 there. So if we get P6, well, I'm getting there. I might need to get some pliers in there to get that out. Can't get in, and the old arthritis in my thumb there is whining, so that way. So we'll pop him up on there, and then our friend Mr. White Black, he can thread himself in there. And he's gone on there, and that's it. Ready to go on that. So that's how that's done. And what I've done with this, really, I open these up in Adobe Reader, these PDFs, and you can use you can click more options and this current view, and if you blow this up before you click print, blow up the bit you want on the screen, just to increase it in size, and then if you select current view, you can just print that part out, and that's what I do with these. Right, so all that's done now, and I think we might just have a tie wrap on those before we finish. So the next thing is we're turning our attention to this board. So here's this board again that we went through earlier. Now you have to hand wire the filaments on these, and you can see heaters there and there and there and on there, and then at this end these two are the green wires which are here and here, and they go in on the end there. That's the feed for the filaments there. So I've got a couple of 200 picofarad caps in here, C1 and C2, and they are to prevent oscillation, and that goes across the grid and the cathode on the EL84s. It says it recommends 220, but I've only got 200s, and they're close enough. So they're to prevent oscillation. So we've got that in there. So we need to rewire these filaments, and then the tube sockets go in from this side up. We got what you need to remember, and I've just had a look at this, a bit of a look at how this works. So what you have to do is filament to filament, but you've got to make sure that you lift the filament wires up, because when you put your socket in there, you've got to get under the wires with your soldering iron to get the terminals in there, to get the solder on the terminals for the tube sockets. I'm not explained that very well, have I? But it's one of those days today. And there we go. That's the board soldered up there. We've got the sockets in, got the wires on there, got the capacitors in there. So that's all ready to go now. Just a word of warning, if you buy one of these, obviously soldering it up on this side. You've also got solder on this side. This is a double trace board, so there's traces on both sides, and we've actually only got, if you look on here, we've only got 2 traces. The others are on that side, so you need to solder down the sides under the pins there and solder those as well. Right, it's time to get the board in. Right, you've got all these ribbons soldered in, got the filaments soldered in. These different to the ones at the bottom where they pushed right up to the board there, but because these have got you can solder both sides on these terminals, I've left these out slightly, because what you don't want is this plastic melting into the solder, so you won't get a good connection. So just left them out. Don't look as tidy, but a lot more secure like that. So that's how I've done those anyway. As I say, I've just left a gap enough to get the soldering iron in and solder both sides of those terminals. So that's it, that's ready to go in now. Right, so I've got the board in, not got the nuts on it yet, because if there's something wrong I may have to take this all to bits again. So I've just got a nut on there loose, just got that in place. That's the speaker socket there, and I've got three I've got the 3 preamp tubes in, but not the output tubes. So what I'm going to do is run this up on the current limiter. I've got a 15 watt bulb in it, and I'm just going to test round and see if we have, just to see if we've got bias voltage and what, you know, what other voltage we've got on these pins and so on. So if we switch on, bulb's gone bright-ish, it's going dim, that's good. So let's just see what we've got then. Pin 9, that's the screen, we'll try that. I've got 177 volts on there. Pin 7, yeah, we've got voltage on there, voltage is dropping all the time. Probably because these tubes are starting to conduct. Have we got filaments though? Probably, if these are conducting. Can't see them lit, but. And pin bias is pin 2. And yes, we've got -5 on that tube, and we need to check both of them, not just one of them. Go in there. And yes, -5. So we've got bias before we put the output tubes in, because if there's no bias it'll fry them. So we've got bias, probably not got enough voltage to see, and far too much light to see if the filaments are glowing, but I don't see any reason why they wouldn't be. It's wired up correctly, so that's all looking good. So let's switch off, and we need to check the voltage is draining. If those preamp tubes will be enough to drain this. It's going down, yep. So we're watching this voltage, because we don't want to be messing with that board until this voltage is all gone from there. Right, so we've got the output tubes in. Menu, settings. So you can increase the brightness on this. Finsry, I think it is, or Finisry, I don't know how you want to pronounce that. So 1 or 2 people have been asking me questions about, you know, what I think to this, and it's a great piece of kit. And, you know, some people probably look at it and think, oh, that's a bit cheap, but the one good thing for me is very accurate, this, and there's been some good reviews done on it. The one good thing for me with this is it's easy to see on camera. That's why I use it, as well as it's got the oscilloscope in and the signal generator. It's a very useful tool. So I'm not snobby with test gear. Some people, you know, everyone has their own choices, and rightly so, you know. But that works for me. It's good. It's a useful piece of kit, and not a lot of money. I think that cost me about £98, I think. Don't know what that would be in dollars, but yes, it's for all those that have left comments about it. Yeah, it's a great tool. So what we're going to do now is switch on again with the 15 watt bulb. We're just going to clip on to that plate there. So yes, see, we've got 82 volts now going in there, 83. See, that's crawling up. We're just going to take us time with that. Remember, we've got these new capacitors in. So this top capacitor here, this node 1, that had only been changed a couple of years ago maybe, so it's recent anyway. So I've left that in in case anybody wonders why that's not a F&T. It was already in there, so I've left it. Guys, the customers paid for that once, and no reason for him to pay for another one. So that's going up now. I've got 91 volts on there. So that bulb's holding things down nicely. So I just want to run this amp up, and then when we've got it, I'm happy it's running okay, I'm going to put it all back together properly, and we're going to get it on the scope and just check it, make sure there's no underlying issues on there. But all looks good so far. So I'm just going to drop that on there, on that R52, just to make sure we've got some bias. It's the easiest point to clip to. You can't clip to those 2 pins. There's just not enough on them to get the connector on there. Right, it's time for another bulb, I think. Time for another bulb. Let's put a 40 watt in with that. Right, those bulbs. So now the 15's gone really dim, and you can see the voltage is just fired up there. We got any sound? We have. A noisy pot there. We can give that a spray. Oh yes, all good. -7 on there, 7.6. So we have got bias. I'm just checking again. Yep, that's good. All good. You can't see the meter now because that's in the way. Sorry about that. So yes, 210 volts we've got there now going on. 210 volts. Yeah, we've got that -7 up on. I've got another meter monitoring that bias, as I say, at the top, so I've just checked that. So that's good. All looking good. No issues, not drawing excessive current. Let's see what we're drawing off the mains. We're drawing 110 milliamps. Is that right? 110 milliamps. That's good. Right, let's take this 15 watt bulb out and we'll put in another 40. There we go, and that should take us up above 250. So we're just bringing these caps up steady. And some of the voltage has gone down now because the tubes are conducting a bit better as well. And we've got -9 now on the bias, so that's all looking good. Of course, we'll have to check the bias to the shunt method. Yeah, pretty pleased with that. Right, we'll swap one of the 40s for a 60. Should give us a bit more voltage than it has. That's looking good. 270 volts. -10 now on that bias. Looking good. Drawing 160 milliamps now off the mains, which is nothing. Right, let's take the 40 out and we'll put 100 in there now. That'll really boost us up. And there we go, we're up to nearly 300 volts. In fact, we will be in a minute. That's climbing nicely. You can probably just turn the current limiter off now. Let's just flick it off. Yeah, there we go. 322 volts we've got on the plate. 321, that's about right. 210 milliamps. -12. Good stuff. That switch works. Treble works. Bass. Mid works good now. So I've got that mod on there. I think we'll get a guitar through that. Get some tunes through it. Oh yes. aggressive, the reverbs on these. There is a mod you can do for these. I've actually done it on one of them, and do you know, it slipped my mind, that one. That little mid mod that we do, we're joining those two terminals, takes that boxiness out of the sound of this amp. Sounds really sweet, despite we've got it faced against the bench. There we go, that sounds okay. Let's turn the master down and wind up the volume. Yes. Yeah, the overdrive is never great on these amps. Right, so here's another Blues Junior that's in, and our bias mod boards have been delivered. So we've got here. So we're going to fit one of those to this amp. Now look at the tubes. It's one of the reasons why I've included this in the video, because I've done videos of fitting these mods, these bias mod boards before, but it's just to look at these tubes and to see what happens to the tubes in these amps with the incorrect voltage selection and the incorrect bias settings. And you can see this tube has gone to air, which means it's got a crack in it somewhere, and the getter's disappeared off there. You get that white look, that means that the tube's gone to air. Air's got in the tube. That's pink sneezing, by the way. So there might be just a little hole in it or something. And you can see, if we look at the paint on here, how it's gone white there as well. That shows they've had a lot of heat, these tubes. That one's all over. And if we take out this one's not far behind it as well. Again, you can see that just the sheer heat. So that's with the tubes biased at 100%, and then they set the voltage at 230. They come into this country and we've got another 11 volts more HT on those plates of those tubes, and I'm afraid that just roasts them. And then the filament voltage are also running high, and that roasts them even more. And so you finish up with that, and those are tainted. That's what happens when tubes are set up incorrectly. And you know, you can I've seen tubes that have been in amps 50 years and still test like new, because the amp's been set up properly. But these amps, they eat tubes if they're not set up correctly. So again, if we look, we just lift up slightly with the camera. If we look on this one again, we've got the black line, black and white wire on the switch, and then P6 we've got black, and it's those two that need to be swapped over again like we did on the last one. So we just have to swap those, and then we're going to fit this bias mod board, and it fits there. And what we do is we snip out R52 and R51. We leave the leads on the resistors. We just cut right at the edge of the resistors there, bend the leads up straight, and then those 4 holes you can see there, you just slide those on, so solder it up, little blob of hot glue or something on the bottom just to hold it in place at this end, and away you go with it. And then you can just adjust the bias with that preset. And these are made so if the preset fails, the bias goes cold. And they are a fantastic bit of kit, these. Absolutely brilliant. What Fender should have put on this amp but didn't. So the first thing we're going to do is fit that, because we need to get that bias sorted out first of all. The second thing we're going to do is swap over this mains selection thing here to 240, and then we're going to put the new tubes in. We've got a new set of JJs to go in this one, like so, and we just need a blob of hot glue on the bottom of him, and he's a result. We just solder up those 4 pins, and away we go with that. There we go. You can see we've got our new tubes in there now, and we've got 94 volts on there because we're still on the current limiter there. I want to bring this amp up steady as well, because whilst I'm pretty sure that's the only problem we've had with this amp, it was just a case of the tubes getting melted. We need to be sure. So I'm going to take some readings and so on. But that's all looking good. Now another reason why I want to show this Blues Junior is that this one obviously hasn't been modded. So I want to try and do a comparison between the one that is modded and this one obviously that's not modded. I just thought that'd be a good part in the video. So look at the schematic now and see what we've done. So if we look on here, you can see we changed C1 to 22 microfarad from 47. We changed C2, which was 2 nanofarad, it's now 22 nanofarad. If we go across onto here, we changed this cap in the tone stack to 100 nanofarad. Was 22 before, and if we look at this last one here, this, let's bring that in so we can see it, that is C8, and we changed that, that was 2 nanofarad, 0.0022, 22 nanofarad, change that too, so that's that. We changed these two drop-in resistors here, 4.7k, which is R49 and R48, and we replaced with the same value 2.2k R47 there. You're coming from node 1 there to node 2, that'll be the screen, so that's the screen resistor, for drop-in resistor between the first node and the second node. We just replaced that with a new one, 2.2k, because it was a bit cooked. And finally we replaced C11, which was put, I think we left that in the end, 0.01, but there's an option to change that. I've got a question mark on the top, so I think we left that in the end. We did C11, but you can change that one to 22 if you wish, if you just want to, you know, if you're looking for a bit of a richer tone out of it. And these coupling capacitors here go into the output tubes. I changed them from 33 to 33 from 22, but you could put 47s in or 100s. It's just what you know, whatever you're looking for. That we've been through, and the rest of it's just layouts and so on. Right, we're just looking at this board, the old tube board that came out of this Blues Junior, and you look there, you can see that that's broken, that one's snapped as well. You can probably just see, if tilt it up that way a bit, that's actually snapped there. It's very hard to see. And I've gone to this tube as well. That one's actually not too bad, but they're not great. And I say, you can see the board's been baked. So a couple of 3 of those snapped. If you look on that side, you can see it's been a bit baked as well. So I had a lot of heat, and it was just for me, just putting a new one in was much better. So that's a look at the old one, the damage there, and this amp was absolutely unplayable. It couldn't even get a signal out of it. That was so bad. You can see that trace has lifted up completely off of there, and that one's broken as well. Now I can see, now I'm looking at it at the right angle, that one's broken. So 3 or 4 of those are broken. Right, got both of these Blues Juniors set up. This is the unmodded one, and this is the modded one. So I thought we'd have a listen to both of them. So this is the one that's not modded. Controls are set the same on both of them. Now let's listen to the other one. So you can see that's not as glassy, a lot more bottom end. much bite. Oops. Not quite the right turn around there, but see how much more bass on there. Much richer tone. With the bass full up on both of them. Back to the other one, the modded one. So you can see there's a lot more bass going on there, a lot richer tone. Let's take a bit more of that. Just a reverb. Back into the other one. See, just nowhere near as much guts, not as rich a tone. And when you actually gig them and turn them up louder, it's even more noticeable. Because I have gigged Fender Blues Juniors and I have gigged one modded and one not modded. practice needed. So there we are. You can tell, you know, listening to both of those, there's a big difference between them. So if if you've got one of these, get them modded. It just makes a hell of a difference. And there's plenty of mods out there for these. You know, there's loads. So that'll do it for this one, or these two. So, and I'm going to fit one of those bias mods to this Blues Junior, because it only takes me 10 minutes or so to fit it, and then we can get that bias spot on, and it's adjustable in the future when another tech comes along. If it needs many years time, that should last years now because of all the work that's been done to it. So I'm going to fit that as well, but I'm not going to film that. So that'll do it for this one. So thanks for watching. You all take care, and if I don't do another video before Christmas, you all have a wonderful Christmas and a really good New Year. I might see you before then, I might not. So if just in case I don't, I wish you all a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. So thanks for watching. You all take care, and I'll see you all in the next video. Bye bye for now.